What's up, guys? First video of 2022 here, and today I am going to show you how to install our new ZZP Billet Wastegate Actuator for the LTG. So we've had this product for a few years now on our Sonic, the 1.4 turbos. Our ZZP actuator has a stiffer spring than stock, so it's gonna allow you to hold boost a little better, and it looks great under the hood. Very straightforward installation here. Turbo is off the car right now, obviously, but you can certainly do this with it on the car. So I'm gonna break it down. We'll run through it real quick. If the turbo is on the car and you have your stock turbo shield over this, the heat shield, you will need to remove that. That's 3 bolts, 2 at the top, 1 kind of down here. So once you get that off, you'll see your turbo, it'll look almost exactly like this. If you have a stock turbo with big wheels like ours or the other companies that are out there, it'll look identical as well, and this will work just as well too. So just a couple bolts, let's get to it. First thing, and probably the hardest thing about this, is just this little clip here. So this little, I guess you would call it a star clip, is what holds the wastegate actuator onto the actual wastegate flap. The reason that I'm pointing this out and taking time is these go flying. They love to just shoot across your engine bay, and it's tiny and you will never find it. So take care when you're removing this. Obviously, turbos get very hot, so please make sure that your car is cooled down and your turbo's not hot when you're attempting to install this. So you're gonna have to remove this clip. It'll be quite tight. What I'm gonna suggest is a pick tool or a magnetic pick tool, and you wanna start to work it off, and you'll kind of get it up onto the nub there. And then I'm gonna take a pair of needle nose to make sure it's not going anywhere. It might try and bite you. So you get that off, put it somewhere safe, don't lose it. So once that's off, you're gonna remove the stock wastegate actuator off of the stock flap here, the nub. It might be a little tight. Like I said, turbos get very hot, so things like to stick together. So then what we're gonna do is remove this whole can here. You're gonna have to remove this vacuum line. You've got 2 constant tension clamps. Work those down off this vacuum line. And then from here, as you can see, even this was on a lower mileage engine, but it gets corroded, you get gunked up. So these vacuum lines, if you try and pull them straight off, they might not come off cleanly or easily. So what I like to do is, if it's really stuck, take your pair of pliers or whatever and kind of loosen it up like that on both ends. Then you will work it off there. Now, your boost actuator here, you want to be careful because this is a plastic nub. You don't want to break that. We have replacements just in case you do, but you don't want to. So then from there, we got the vacuum line disconnected. You've got 12 mils here and here. You'll take that off. 1 and 2. Those 2 bolts were pretty tight for me getting them off the first time, so you might have to use a long wrench like I did. So take your stock unit, set it aside. You will not need that or any components from that, but like I always say, keep your stock parts for a while just in case, mistakes happen, things happen. You don't want to be stuck without a car. So in your box, you've got our new bracket here, billet wastegate actuator itself, your clevis end, and a piece of 1/4-inch vacuum hose. Installation, very straightforward. You'll remove your 10mm nuts off of here. Okay, what I'd recommend is your nub on here, take a pair of needle nose and just make sure it's tight. It is aluminum, so it's soft, so don't go cramming on it, but make sure that's nice and tight there. We'll set that aside. We'll get our bracket onto here. So attach there. Get these 12mm ones back on. Nice and snug. Tighten them on up. Okay, once your bracket is installed, do note the long side of the, what you would say here, is going to be towards the driver's side. So you'll go ahead and put your wastegate actuator in like that. Right here on the bench, it looks like the ZZP is oriented incorrectly, but the LTG turbo is set up like that. So then take your 10mm nuts there. Thread those on. Give them a snug. All right. Now you're going to install the clevis arm onto the actuator. All right, now, how you're going to want to adjust this. We're going to start with what would be a stock level of preload. So your wastegate arm here controls the flapper and the turbo. Make sure it's seated all the way in. Then spin your clevis out until it slides right on, like it does there. No movement. So once it's slid on, you're gonna go 1.5 turns tighter. So in towards the actuator. So you go 1/2, 2/2, 3/2, and you can see it no longer slips on. So you'll hold your wastegate flap, pull it out, slide it over. Once that's slid over, you can tighten up the 10mm here. There we go. Now, your fancy dancy clip there is gonna need to go back on. So you can kind of work it on with your fingers. And then make sure it doesn't bite you. There we go, we're back on. Then I just like to take my needle nose and kind of smush it back together so it's not going anywhere. There we go. We're good there. Last but not least, you just need to get your vacuum line hooked back up. So you're going to take your constant tension clamps off this little stock piece. Then we include a about 6-inch piece of vacuum line here. Slide your tension clamps over. Now these fittings are a little bit bigger than the stock one. Well, I'd say about the same, but it has a little bigger lip, but our vacuum line is a little bit thinner. So sometimes you might have to get this a little wet, put a little oil there or something. So I'm just gonna slide that on. Make sure it's on there. Take one of your clamps, slide it down. Take your other piece. Again, just be careful. Don't want to break this plastic. If it's 14 degrees outside and everything's brittle, I probably wouldn't do it. Then you'll take your other tension clamp, snug it on, and there you are. LTG Billet Wastegate Actuator installed. Now, these do not need tuning out of the box, but with anything with an LTG, you really should be getting a tune. You know, mention to your tuner that you have one of these. Like I said, they do have a stiffer spring than stock. If you install it on a totally stock car, you may end up getting an overboost code. If that's the case and you're not tuned, you can lessen your preload on the wastegate actuator arm. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, give me an email, tyler.v@zzperformance.com or customer service at zzperformance.com. Otherwise, you're all installed. Enjoy. We'll see you.